Alright everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make this painting of this boat right here. We're going to do it in two colors, so you're going to use just a yellow, like this one, and either a blue, a black, or a purple. Either one of those will work. You want to have your yellow, and then you want to have your blue, black, or purple. So one yellow and one of the others. And then you're going to use both of those colors to make this image right here. Basically, you're going to be creating a warm and a cool painting. So you're going to have your two colors, your warm color, your yellow, and your cool color, your blue, black, or purple. You're going to use a mix of those colors to create your painting today. So you'll notice that if you start with the yellow and you mix a little bit of your darker color, you'll get this brownish color. If you do about equal half and half, you'll get this neutral. And if you use a little bit more of your cool color, you'll probably get this nice dark purple or blue or blackish color here. So you have your warm and cool on the end, that mix to create neutral tones that you're going to use to create your painting. So you're going to do this painting in two layers. The first layer is going to be the water background. Sorry, it's not a great image. The water background, and the second layer is going to be the boat, and there's actually one final layer, which is going to be those darkest parts of the boat, which I'm not sure you can see. But yeah, the first layer is going to be that background. The second layer will be some of these tones in here, and the final layer will be those darkest tones in there. So again, when you're working with watercolor, you're going to be working from light to dark. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you the first step. Alright, so in the first step, we're going to create the water and the sky all in one layer. And for this, you're going to need to have your watercolor paper with your drawing on it, drawn lightly in pencil. So you want to have a nice light pencil drawing of it so that when you add the paint, your pencil drawing is going to kind of disappear by the end. You can either draw this by hand or you can trace it using the handout that you have. So let's go ahead, and the first thing we want to do is add a layer of water to the whole sheet. So I'm going to just take my brush, get water in it from the cup, and I'm just going to add a layer of water like this to the whole page. Okay, I'm not worrying about really where it's going. I'm just adding it to the whole page. Boom, like that. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and just make sure I've got all of it covered and that there's plenty of water on there. And I'm going to go ahead and add my my sky and my background. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this dark color, and I'm going to make sure on a scrap piece of paper that it's kind of how I want it. That's a little dark. I'm going to grab a little yellow to make it not so intense, like that. Maybe a little bit more. So I'm just mixing it right on the page. You can mix it in the thing. You want to test it out and make sure it's where you want it, how you like it. Adding a little bit of water will make it lighter. And I'm going to just do a big swatch on the front, and I don't quite have enough water on there, so I'm going to go like this and adding some water. It's going to start to puddle and pool like this. You can, again, if it gets a little too runny for you, you can go ahead and stamp it out. And then I'm going to, while that's on there, while it's still everything is wet, I'm going to grab a warm color, and I'm just going to go ahead and add some warm tones in there. Again, just letting everything kind of mix together. Like that. And not really worrying about where everything is going, just making a nice background for it here. And then I'm going to add some blue down at the bottom again. This. And maybe a neutral color in here so that it looks something like this. So once you've finished, you should have it these colors nicely kind of running together and everything looking a little bit like that. Wouldn't get too picky on how it looks quite yet. It's going to change a lot by the time you're done. Okay, so when you're done with this stage, you want to go ahead and let it dry completely. You really need to let this whole thing dry before you move on to the next step, because if you don't let it dry, you're not going to be able to put your next step cleanly on top. So be patient, let it dry. You can air dry it like this, you can blow on it a little bit, just give it a few minutes and let it dry. Okay, so at this point, you should hopefully be done with the first level, the first wash. And you should hopefully still be able to see your drawing, even if a little bit faintly, underneath that wash. And at this point, it should be nice and dry. This does take some patience, so you might just want to, you can keep doing this, you can blow on it a little bit. It takes a little while for it all to dry. But again, that's what's really important, because when you put the next layer on, you really don't want it to interfere with this layer. The more patient you are, the more you wait, the nicer your drawing is going to be in the end. So the second part, we're going to go ahead and start to put in some of the details in the boat. So we're going to go ahead and put in the boat. Be careful to leave a spot for the background to show through right there, and being careful not to go too crazy and add too much. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the boat. I'm going to mix. I'm going to take my brush. I'm actually going to use a slightly smaller brush this time. Again, don't be afraid to trade out your brushes if they're not working, and find the size that's going to be right for what you're working on. So I'm going to use, again, I'm going to mix this right onto this page here, and that's a lot of purple. I'm going to just wet my brush and dilute it down. I want a color that's going to be kind of neutral, not really warm or cool, right in that area. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the boat in mine, and you can watch me do that a little bit, and then I'll fast forward it. So you can see this color a little bit darker than the background. I'm just going to put in the silhouette of the boat, and again, if you start light, you can always go a little darker, and this brush is almost too small. Just going in here, and I'm going to get a little bit more dark on here. And when you're making these lines, really take your time, because the quality of your line here is going to really make a difference in the end, whether it looks nice or whether it looks hastily done. So take your time, start to put in the boat, and make sure, like for example right here, I'm going to leave a space for the background to show through, and I'm just carefully going in. You really want your edges to be nice and crisp. I'm not worrying about really any of the details. I'm just putting it in as a silhouette. So really what you're doing is you're painting this boat as a silhouette against the background. And that's why you're just going to paint it in 2 layers, this first layer and then the next layer. So if you want to watch me a little bit more, just filling in the boat here, I'm not really worrying about any of the details. I'm just filling it in. Keeping in mind wherever I want the background to show up. I'm not using a ton of paint here, just enough to get the job done. And here is one of those tall pillars, so this is where you really want to be careful and take your time, like that. Here's another one. So again, if you rush these, they're not going to look great in the end. So you want to take your time in the beginning so that you just go nice and slow. And you want to get them in one go. So that's really important. Try to making them even width like that. And I'm not really concerned where the boat meets the water. I'm just going to bring it down. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then fast forward to when I'm done with this step so you guys can see what it looks like. And I have my second layer finished on here. All I did was I took my 2 colors over here, and I just mixed up a series of like neutral colors on a scrap sheet of paper, and I created some neutrals in here, some which are cooler, some which are a little bit warmer in this area, and I applied them filling in that boat shape with, so the boat, the reflection, the water, and these lines up here. Again, this is something that you should do slowly, take your time, try to do it all in one go. You can see right in here, I went back over my work a little bit and it looks a little not so great. When you're coming out in this area, make sure they're getting lighter as they're going away. And that's all I did. So go ahead and give it a shot now, and then you want to let it dry just like you let that first layer dry. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so at this point we're going to go ahead and add the darkest layer in here. You can see that if you take a look closely at the ship, it's windows and it has some stripes on it that are a bit darker than the regular body of the ship. So that's what we're going to add. We're also going to maybe darken some of these areas. You can see that these lines up here are nice and dark, so we might add those too. So what you want to do is first, it looks kind of like a cooler dark, so I'm going to make sure that I'm adding a little bit more blues to it. And the first thing I want to do is go ahead and take my paintbrush, and again, using the side of the cup to get the water off of it, and then I'm going to make sure I get a bunch of this purple, and so you can see I've got a good amount of it on my brush there. I don't want it to be pure purple. I want it to have a little bit of the other color in it so it's not too intense. And this is basically just our darkest color here. And I'm going to come into my painting, making sure that it's wet, that it's dry. And I'm going to start making those other shades. I'm actually going to use a smaller brush. This one's going to be a little bit too big, so I'm going to go with the smaller brush. Definitely change brushes if you are working on a smaller area. I've got a little too much water on my brush, so I'm going to get that off, making sure that I've got the kind of darkness that I want. You can see that putting that down, it's not quite as dark as I want it, so I'm going to just go back, get some more paint. Remember, more paint equals darker, more water equals lighter. So now I've got a nice dark color there. I'm going to go in and add some of the details in here. So I see a little triangle shape right in here. And then I see a window, kind of starts right here and heads this way and is angled like that. And then another window right here, like that. It's actually a little too dark. I think the contrast is a little too much there, so I'm gonna maybe make this one not. What are you gonna do? So there's that. I'm also going to just go ahead and outline this a little bit more, since I feel like this needs a little contrast here. And I'm gonna go ahead and add in that right here. And that's a little darker than I want it, so I'm gonna take my my paper towel and just dab it up a little bit. So again, if you put something down that's a little too dark, don't be afraid to go back in, and then I'm just going to redo it. And that's looking okay. Not exactly what I had in mind, but it should turn out okay. And I'm going to go ahead and add in all these dark areas so that it looks like the boat is a little bit more three-dimensional. Okay, and I've gone ahead and added that section, so that layer. I went in and adjusted and changed a lot of things when I was adding it. You'll find that the paint tends to dry a little bit differently and then you put it on there. It may, it may be a little bit difficult to work with. You can use your paper towel to dab it up. You can, use a wet paintbrush with water to spread things out. It's hard to get it to look, like you want sometimes. So go ahead and see if you can add a darker layer and put in some of those details in the ship. Go ahead.